This is Christmas for Grown-Ups, a 4-part look at the Christmas story for grown-ups. Each of you can decide for yourself what grown-up means. I'm not sure I qualify, but each to their own. I want to be clear at the start. These videos are not part of a simple recruitment drive for Sunday services in mine or any other churches. In them, I will not tell you what to believe or to think. I'm going to explore some of the questions that help me to engage with the Christmas story each year. Some of the questions may surprise you, but they aren't off the table in the life of the church or particularly radical, or they shouldn't be. We're trying to work out who we are, who we think God is, and what both of those mean for the way we live our lives together and in the world. That's what church is for. So I'm Rory Dalglish. I'm a Methodist minister in York in the United Kingdom. I'm currently minister to Haxby and Wigginton Methodist Church and Holgate Methodist Church in the city. Today I'm rocking my penguin Christmas jumper, crown and all. There are other jumpers to come. That may be the highlight for you of the whole series. We'll have to wait and see. And this is my study. I don't do a hiding of what's behind me. This is my workspace. It used to be the living room in the house when it was built, and so it's quite large. And I share it with 2 guinea pigs, about 50 fish, a lot of books, all kinds of strategic mess that you can't see, and an unreasonable amount of Lego. Why Christmas for grown-ups? Well, last year around Christmas time, I was in a group of people talking about the Christmas story. It was a brilliant conversation, with some frustration there about the way we tell the story. See, we often tell the story for children, really, and we've added a lot to it over the years. We often use picturesque images of characters around a manger, silhouetted kings on camels in a desert landscape by starlight, a young boy standing in the corner of an inexplicably warmly lit stable by night, banging a drum. Just what a family with a newborn needs most. We sing largely sentimental Victorian carols, containing amongst other things almost sinister instructions for children's proper behavior, while others that we sing and the way we tell the story cements the story as absolutely factually accurate into the season, muscling healthy skepticism and curious questions off the field, or at least that's how it feels. And I know that feeling exists because enough people have told me so. Why is the story as it is in the Bible? What were the writers intending listeners to hear insofar as we can make reasonable guesses in our answering? And why have we chosen over the years to retell the story the way we do? What is left half said at best, or unexplored, that we might want to ask questions about? Someone suggested in a conversation a year ago that what we needed was a Christmas for grown-ups, their exact words. So I thought this year I'd have a go. I'm going to explore the virgin birth, not to build a fence around it, to protect the idea or to dismiss it, but to ask why it's in the story, and ask what that says about God, about you and about me, about our bodies, about ideas of purity and separation. And we'll move on to chapter 1 of Matthew's Gospel, which lays out the genealogy of Jesus, because it seems to really matter in that telling of it that he is directly descended from King David. Why does that matter so much? And what does that say about the way we understand heritage or place or the right to be heard? And I'll be looking at why there's such an emphasis on Old Testament passages that have been called prophecies of Jesus, foretellings of his birth and life and death, often in apparently great detail. All of that suggests the fact of God planning things out beforehand, and that's worth spending some time with. And then lastly, it'll be time for wise men and shepherds and the way we attach symbolic value, symbolic meaning to them, to the gifts they bring, to the story as a whole. What does it mean for us to look for symbols of something much bigger than what's there in the story as it is? But we're going to begin with a quiz about the Christmas story as it appears in the Bible. There are 28 questions. Strap yourself in. If you want to do this mastermind style, get yourself a chair and sit in a spotlight if you want to, and I'll go through the answers once we've had all the questions. Quiz time. There are 28 questions, as I said. If you want to write down the answers, you're welcome to. If you don't write them down, then of course, if you're doing this for someone else, when the answers come up, you can just say, yeah, that's what I thought, and score yourself some really good marks. Right, let's begin. So, As long as Christmas has been celebrated, it's been on the 25th of December. True or false? Joseph was from Bethlehem, Jerusalem, Nazareth, Egypt, Milton Keynes. None of the above. How did Mary and Joseph travel to Bethlehem? A camel? A donkey? They walked, Northern Rail. Joseph walked, Mary rode on a donkey. Who knows? Mary and Joseph were married when Mary fell pregnant. True or false? When Joseph found out that Mary was pregnant, they got married. Joseph wanted to break it off. Mary left town for 3 months. An angel told him to go to Bethlehem. They got married and an angel told him to go to Bethlehem, or Joseph wanted to break it off and Mary left town for 3 months. Mary was a virgin when she delivered Jesus. True or false? Who told Mary and Joseph to go to Bethlehem? An angel? Mary's mother? Herod? Caesar Augustus? Alexander the Great? No one. What did the innkeeper tell Mary and Joseph? There's no room in the inn. I have a stable you can use. Come back after the Christmas rush. There's no room in the inn and I have a stable you can use. Or none of the above. Jesus was delivered in a stable, a manger, a cave, a barn. We don't know. A manger is a stable for domestic animals, a wooden hay storage bin, a feeding trough, or a barn. Which animals were present at the birth of Jesus? Cows, sheep, and goats. Cows, donkeys, and sheep. Only sheep and goats. Lions, tigers, and elephants. None of the above. Who saw the star in the east? Shepherds, Mary and Joseph, 3 kings, both shepherds and 3 kings. None of the above. How many angels spoke to the shepherds? 1, 3, a multitude, or none of those? And what sign did the angels tell the shepherds to look out for? This way to baby Jesus, a star over Bethlehem, a baby that doesn't cry, a Christmas tree, a baby in a stable, or none of those? What did the angels sing? Joy to the world, hallelujah, unto us a child is born, glory to God in the highest, hark the herald angels sing, my sweet Lord, or the entire Boney M Christmas album. What is a heavenly host? The angel at the gate of heaven, the angel who invites people into heaven, the angel who serves refreshments in heaven, an angel choir, an angel army, or none of those? There was snow that first Christmas, only in Bethlehem, all over Israel, nowhere in Israel, only on Mount Hermon. Mary and Joseph only dreamed of a white Christmas. The baby Jesus cried when the doctor slapped him on the bum, when the little drummer boy started banging on his drum. Just like other babies cry, he never cried. What is frankincense? A precious metal, a precious fabric, a precious perfume, an Eastern monster story, or none of those? What is myrrh? An easily shaped metal, a spice used for burying people, a drink, nomad's aftershave, none of these. How many wise men came to see Jesus? Pick a number. What does magi refer to? Men of the educated class, Eastern kings, astrologers or astronomers, traveling dudes on a gap year, the presenters of Top Camel. The wise men found Jesus in a manger, stable, house, premier inn, festive mood. The wise men stopped in Jerusalem to inform Herod about Jesus, find out where Jesus was, ask about the star they saw, learn more about mince pies, buy presents for Jesus. Joseph and Mary took the baby Jesus to Egypt to show him the pyramids, to teach him about the pharaohs, to put him in a basket on the Nile because Joseph dreamed about it, to be taxed. They did not go to Egypt, or none of those. Where do we find the Christmas story to answer all these ridiculous questions? Is it in Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, all of them? Matthew and Mark, Matthew and Luke, Matthew, Mark and Luke, Aesop's fables. I think this quiz was stupendous, great, fantastic, pedantic and annoying. All of the above. So how do you think you did? This is the section where we'll go through the answers. You might want to throw things at the screen. Just remember it's your screen. Even though they may hit me in the face, they won't actually hit me in the face, and you'll probably have to buy a new screen. So, let's go. As long as Christmas has been celebrated, it's been on the 25th of December. That's not true. It's moved around. Sometimes it's even been apparently about the phases of the moon, a bit like Easter. But the 25th of December is not the date of Christmas for all of time. Joseph was from Bethlehem, which is why they went back there when they needed to. How did they travel? Well, we don't know. We just don't know. All the story tells us is they needed to travel and they arrived. We don't actually know how they got there. No donkey anywhere, just in case you were about to protest. Mary and Joseph were married when Mary fell pregnant. That's not true, according to Matthew's Gospel. So there's a hint to one of the answers later. Not true. They were not married when Mary fell pregnant. And when Joseph found out that Mary was pregnant, he wanted to break it off, and Mary left town for 3 months. They did get married, obviously, eventually, but that's what happened immediately. Mary was a virgin when she delivered Jesus. That is true, according to Matthew's Gospel. That's part of the story, and we're going to explore that and a little bit of what that means. Who told Mary and Joseph to go to Bethlehem? Well, of course, it was Caesar Augustus, because there was a census decreed, and they had to go. Although there doesn't seem to be much evidence in any other historical writings of the time about a census being taken, but that's the reason in the story why we're told they go to Bethlehem. What did the innkeeper tell Mary and Joseph? There's no innkeeper. The story says there's no room in the inn, but there's no mention of an innkeeper, although every nativity play has an innkeeper front and center, saying important things to them and welcoming them into their stable. Where was Jesus delivered? Well, we just don't know. We just don't know. The stories don't tell us. They tell us something of where he was found by shepherds and where he was found by the Magi, but the story doesn't actually tell us where Jesus was born. You're starting to understand that I might be being a bit pedantic, but actually that's the truth of it. We don't know. What is a manger? A manger is a feeding trough. Feeding trough for animals. Quite a strange place to put a newborn baby, but I'm sure they tidied it out beforehand. Which animals were present at Jesus' birth? Well, none of them that we know of, because we don't know quite where he was born. So, how can we say what angels were there? But again, our nativity plays and our carols and our Christmas cards love inserting various barnyard animals, although there aren't lions, tigers and elephants in any of them. Who saw the star in the east? Well, none of those, because the shepherds didn't see a star in the east, and 3 kings didn't, because the Magi weren't kings. We've added that bit to their lives, and we've put crowns on their heads in those silhouettes in the dark as they cross the dunes, but there's no evidence of them being kings. So the answer is none of those. How many angels spoke to the shepherds? Just the one. That was enough. Any more, they were already terrified, so any more than one talking to them at the same time would have been a bit scary. And what sign did the angels tell the shepherds to look out for? Well, you can go back and see what we had, but there was none of those. The sign was a babe wrapped in swaddling clothes and lying in a manger. What did the angels sing? Not Boney M. They sang glory to God in the highest. And what is the heavenly host? Well, the closest we can get is an angel army. The word that's used to describe the gathering of angels in the sky has elements of regiment in it, so army is the best way to describe that. And there was snow that first Christmas. Well, we can't say for sure, but if it was winter, which it might not have been, if there would only have been really snow on Mount Hermon, Golan Heights in the north of Israel, between Israel and Lebanon and Syria, a highly contested area. There is a ski resort there now on the Israeli side, and it's snow covered every year. So we know there was snow on Mount Hermon, so I'm going to go with only on Mount Hermon, and you can just disagree with me if you like. But there was snow in Israel. Well, there is in winter. The baby Jesus cried. Well, again, no proof, no video, no proud dad's journal. Why would Jesus not cry just like other babies cry, no matter what we're told in one of our carols? Frankincense is a precious perfume. Myrrh is a spice used for burying people. And we're going to, the other gift was gold. So when we come to the wise men and the shepherds in the last of the videos, we're going to have a little look at what people think those gifts mean and why they've decided that they mean those things. How many wise men came to see Jesus? We don't know. We know there were 3 gifts, so we've just surmised 3 kings, 3 men, 3... We just don't know. If you go to the cathedral in Cologne, in Germany, there has been there since the 1100s a shrine to Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar, the names of these 3 kings, and there's a shrine that can be visited. Millions of people have visited the shrine that contains the bones of 3 people. They were taken out a while ago and kind of pieced together, and there was a fairly young man, and there was a sort of middle-aged person, and there were the bones of a fairly elderly person. They wrapped them in silk and put them back in again. If you want to know where the bones of the 3 kings are, apparently they're in Cologne, but the story doesn't tell us how many there were, and they weren't kings. Magi refers to our best translation, astrologers, astronomers, people who sought to understand the movements of the stars and planets and perhaps try and make sense of them in terms of what they might be presaging or prefacing in that superstitious period of time. Where did the wise men find Jesus? Well, Matthew says, and coming to the house, they found him there. House is the best translation of the word we have from the Aramaic. So houses then, and even some houses now in the Middle East, are actually house and stable together. And the family will live in the second floor, and all the animals live in the stable kind of underneath. So if Jesus and Mary and Joseph were welcomed into a home, it may well have been a house where she gave birth in the house somewhere, and he was then placed in the manger because the rest of the house was full. But the story definitely tells us, in the way that the Magi are introduced, coming to the house, they found him there. And some theologians, historians, experts reckon that it might even have been a year or 2 after Jesus was born that the Magi visited him. That's what we know. The wise men stopped in Jerusalem, not to find out about mince pies, but to find out where Jesus was. They went to Herod and asked Herod, "Where is the child born to be king of the Jews?" Herod got really upset and gave them instruction to find out and let him know so he could go and worship him too, when he had other intentions. And Joseph took the baby Jesus to Egypt because he dreamed about it. He had a dream, the way the story is told, in which he was warned that Jesus was in danger, and so they traveled as a family to Egypt and became refugees very quickly, just relying on the hospitality and the welcome of strangers in a foreign country. Where do we find the Christmas story to answer all these ridiculous questions? The answer is Matthew's Gospel and Luke's Gospel. Mark begins with Jesus as an adult, beginning his ministry, and John begins with very mystical language and then proceeds straight into the beginnings of Jesus' ministry with the wedding in Cana. And this quiz was, of course, all of the above. Stupendous, great, fantastic, but pedantic and annoying at the same time. I hope you've enjoyed it. So how was that? Were there any surprises? Did you find yourself heckling me over any of the answers? I won't know if you did, so I won't take it personally. Somewhere between preparing maybe your victorious acceptance speech or a feeling of abject shame. I'm sure that some aspects of the story were unknown for all of us, no matter how much we've heard it and however many times we've heard it in church or elsewhere. I haven't done the quiz myself for some time, so even I checked that the answers were in fact correct a few times, just getting the slideshow ready. So we've started this way for a reason. Not to make you or anyone feel that you failed in any way, but to point out just how many holes there are in the story when it comes to the detail, and how much we've filled them in over the years. The point of Christmas for grown-ups is not to grumble about that or correct the record, for me to somehow say that you've been doing it wrong. And the point is also, it's not to arrive at one definitive version of the story, to agree on anything. The point of these videos is to explore why we tell the stories we do the way we do. The point is to explore why we read the Bible, the stories in the Bible handed down to us, the way we do. What does that say about us? What's going on inside as we do so? Jesus was a historical figure. The Jewish and Roman historians, Josephus and Tacitus, both write about him in their works from their particular perspectives. So it's not all made up and a fairy tale. The gospel writers, of course, did the same, with the best intentions, but for them with faith squarely on the table and wanting the story to contribute particularly to a coherent whole as they told the story. What each of us makes about the way that the story of Jesus is told within the Christian faith is a matter for you and I. But it is a story even for an avowed, paid-up atheist. When we ask, not is it true or not, did it happen exactly this way or not, but what our storytelling says about us and who we are and who we think God is and why we tell our stories the way we do. Christmas for grown-ups. I hope it's at least interesting. I really hope it gives us all a bit more permission to live with our questions, in our minds and hearts and our bodies, in our complex identities and beliefs. It's a love story. And if our lives aren't about love, then, well, what else is there of any real substance? If anything in this series prompts you to seek out a church community where there's room for your questions, great. You may not find that an easy search, but persevere. There's just as much realness online as there is in person, sometimes more. If you want to be in touch with me, you're welcome to. My contact details are at the end of the video, and I'll happily discuss any aspect of this material with anyone, within reason, and as grown-ups. Next time, the virgin birth. Take care.